Welcome to day 3. We are almost at the halfway point, which is a great thing because today might end up being the longest day of the challenge, just a heads up. So up until this point, we have set your carbon baseline for your homepage, and we have audited your images and gathered information about those. So today is where we actually deal with your images and optimize them. Depending on how many images you have on your homepage, this may take longer. It may take closer to 30 to 40 minutes rather than the 10 to 20 minutes that any other day has been taking. And it also depends on what programs that you're going to use to optimize your images. Regardless of where you're at in skill level, technology access, I have a couple of options in the walkthrough, including Photoshop, Canva, Illustrator, and then also using some web optimizers and talking about a image format that you may or may not be familiar with called WebP, and that will be discussed more in the walkthrough part of this. So if you haven't done day 1 or 2, just a quick reminder, I recommend you pause this video and go back to doing those because you can't do this stuff until you do those other ones. But if you've done all of the work, then we are ready to go and let's get optimizing. You can stay here to view the video walkthroughs, or you can go back to your PDF and take a look that way. All right, here's the day 3 video walkthrough. So this one's going to be a little bit different and choppy because there are a few different avenues that you can take, and I want to cover the majority of them that you might be running into or using. So the PDF for today is really just going to be a walkthrough and a reference. There is no table or anything to fill out like there has been the last 2 days, but I'll walk you through the thought process behind how I approach optimizing images, and then I'll show you how I actually optimize images, and then you can take that and run with it however works best in the tools that you have available to you, your knowledge base, and what you're comfortable with. So today is all about optimizing the images that we took notes on yesterday. So in day 3, you will find on page 2, in the action steps, you will find buttons to every single part of this video. If you have Photoshop and you're really comfortable with that, then you can look at the Save for Web. If you don't have access to Adobe products, saving images from Canva is actually a valid way to do things. And then online compressors, regardless of whether you're saving from Photoshop or from Canva, you will want to be using those. Saving as a WebP format, I will walk you through what the heck that is, how to do it, and really the benefits. And then I'll also show you how to save as an SVG from Illustrator, and SVGs are really great for logos, icons, things that are only a couple of colors. They can actually end up being smaller and cleaner than if you were to save them as a PNG or as a WebP image. But for optimizing, these are the steps that I usually take when I'm deciding on how to save out an image. So the first thing that I consider is file type. Do I want to save this as a WebP, a JPEG, a PNG, an SVG? Really what is going to be the best. There are more file types than this for images, but these are the 4 main ones that I use. I would say like, yeah, maybe a GIF could be a good thing to use depending on the situation, but I'm not really talking about any animation or anything in this challenge, so that will be up to your discretion. So basically, if you have a photograph, I wholly recommend using the WebP format. It's similar to JPEG in the sense of like what you want to use it for, but it can save down at a much smaller size for equal or better quality. The only downside to a WebP image is that not every browser supports them yet. So if you do end up using WebP, you will have to use a fallback of a JPEG just in case. There are a couple of ways to do this, and I will talk about those as well. They are in code, but I do have a template of code that you can just copy and paste and input yourself. If you're not comfortable with that, you can not use WebP and just continue to use JPEG until maybe you feel more comfortable with it or have the time to deal with it. That is totally acceptable. And then for logos, icons, and illustrations, depending on the scope of it, I always recommend using SVG first and then trying PNG, because usually these need that transparent background. For illustration, if it's one that is a lot of colors and not, you know, logo-like in the sense of it has the solid colors. If you're using gradients or just a lot, then for an illustration, you might want to use PNG or even WebP with the fallback of PNG. Once you consider the file type, then we'll be talking about relative size and dimensions. So in day 2, when I told you how to, you know, write down, is this a full screen image, a half screen image? That is because everything is going to be relatively based on the width of 1920 pixels. So the most common screen size right now is going to be a width of 1920. That it changes depending on if they have 4K monitors. You know, some don't fit into this resolution. However, that is the majority, and going any bigger than that, you're really going to shoot yourself in the foot with how big your web page is getting. After you understand the type of file that you need and the relative size and dimensions, then we're going to talk about how other ways you can reduce your file size. So you can use a lower quality. You know, we just went through the type and everything. You can also compress it, and that's where the online compressors are going to come in. And then I also in this document just included some resources for downloading the plugin for Photoshop to save your images as a WebP if you would like. And then also the code to use JPEG as a fallback. Oh, I also want to include, if you're using WordPress, there are plugins to do this. Optimal is one that I know some people have used and have good success with. They lazy load images, and then they also convert things to WebP with the JPEG fallback. I'll provide links down below to some of those plugins. That's the general thought process behind how to optimize your images. Stay tuned for how you want to optimize your images, whether you want to use Photoshop, Canva, just learn about the online compressors, whatever, they will be following in this order. And if you don't want to have to go through all of them in this PDF, you can click through and they will be timestamped out, the link. Here's a walkthrough for how I optimize my website images in Photoshop. So the first thing that you're going to want to do once you have your image together, crop it if you need to. I have this one all cropped down exactly how I want it in the right ratio. And once you have that, then you're going to want to do a file, export, save for web. The keyboard shortcut is Control-Alt-Shift-S if you're on a PC, and then if you're on a Mac, it's Command-Option-Shift-S. So you're going to want to click on that. You will have this pop-up show up in this bottom left corner. You will have, okay, see it's a JPEG. This is its file size, which you will notice right now that that is huge. And then you will have the ability to move and look at all the different parts of the image. So the first thing that I usually do, if not already, make sure that the width is what you need, and you will have found that from the little chart in the PDF. So a full screen image is going to be 1920 pixels. So that is correct. Once you have that all set up, you have the right image type, then we look at quality of the image. So very high is definitely not where we're going to want this, because we do not want to save out a 440 kilobyte image. That is huge. While the quality will be a lot better with it, the load times and everything is just, it's not worth it when you can get a good image saved much better. So I'm going to turn this down to high to start out with. And you'll notice from just doing that, we have dropped to 263 kilobytes. The quality hasn't changed a ton. You'll notice like maybe some jaggediness here. Once it's saved on the website though, I think it's acceptable if you need your absolute nice pixel perfect, and especially with graphic design work, I totally get it. I try to straddle the line of good quality, but still optimized. So I still think I can adjust this quality a little bit more. So I'm going to take this quality from 60 down to 50, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, we're down to 203 kilobytes. This text is still very crisp, and that's kind of what I want to keep with. And the rest, like, you were never going to be able to read this text anyway, so I'm okay with that. And I'm going to bring it down 45. Where does that hit me? Okay, that seems about good. I mean, this starts to get a little fuzzy, so maybe we just bring it up just a touch. No, I guess that's really going to stay fuzzy regardless. So I'm going to drop it to 45. I'm happy with where this is at. While this is a little bit fuzzy, really it's the layout that I'm trying to show off here. You have this nice crisp logo. You can still see a lot of the detail in this leaf, and then same here. The text gets fuzzy, but you get the whole overall aesthetic, and that's what I'm looking for. So I have this image pretty much optimized where I want it to be. 178 kilobytes isn't the best, but it's not the worst for the quality that I need. Have it set as a JPEG, and I have it set at the dimensions that I need it. So I'm going to click on save, and I have a folder on my desktop for these new website images. So I'm going to save it as Herb Garden. I can spell. Homepage banner, and I am going to click on save. And that's it. Once you have it saved out in its location, just kind of keep working through every image that you have. There's not a great way to batch optimize from Photoshop, since everything is kind of subjective based on how the quality is. But if you did want to like batch save to save yourself some time and then just rely on online compressors, that could be okay, maybe not the best. I really encourage you to, at least for your home page, go through and optimize to see how you like it. You could even batch optimize and compare and see how the file sizes line up. And I recommend saving them all in the same folder, because then when we optimize later, you can just grab them all in the same place and it will be one quick upload. Here, I will walk you through how to save out your images for your website from Canva. Canva is a really great free online tool. It won't give you as many options as like Photoshop or Illustrator or something, but it does the trick if all you need to do is resize your images, or even just add some text to them, find some stock photos, whatever it is, it makes it very easy. So once you're all logged in and everything, you will want to create a design with this button in the upper right corner. Click custom size and make the size the exact size of the image that you want to save out. So this image for my home page that I am saving out is going to be 250 by 250 pixels, and setting this up right now will save you a lot of time later. So create new design, and that will pop up. And then I want to upload an image from my desktop to save out. So I'm going to go to uploads and upload media from my device. And this is the folder where I want to upload from. Find the image right here, this one. So that's uploading. We will wait a couple seconds. Okay, so that is the one that we want, and we just click on it to get it here. And I basically want to zoom in on this booklet. So I'm going to make this quite a bit bigger to get cropped in where I would like. And move it over just a touch, and that's solid for me. That's where I want it. So that easy, just to crop in where it is. If you wanted to add type or anything else, you can explore these tabs. If you're not super familiar with Canva, there are some good online guides out there that I encourage you to look into. So once you have this here, you can name it what you want it. I will call this homepage paper booklet, and then click the download button. This is in photo, so PNG is not what I would like. I would like this to be a JPEG. change it to there. If you pay for Canva, you can adjust the size here, but that's where if you just make the size of your project exactly what you want, you don't even have to worry about it. And then quality is just fine to keep it as large because I can't adjust that, and we will adjust for that quality when we optimize. So I will click download. And this will end up in my downloads folder right here. And I will just drag that to my desktop folder, File Explorer, new one, desktop, and new website images. And I will just drag it right over into there. And then these are ready to go for optimizing on the next step. Right, here's where I am going to show you how to compress your images, whether they're JPEG or PNG, to get them fully compressed for your website. So you can either go to tinyjpeg.com or tinypng.com. They look very similar. So just go to one or the other, whichever you're using. If you need to optimize your JPEG or your PNG files, go to that one. So the first thing that you're going to do, and why I recommend keeping all of your website images in the same folder, is you can drag and drop all of them right here. So I will drag these two that I've done into there, and it will be finished. And as you can see, this second one has compressed by 25%, but I mean, started off so small, saved 3 kilobytes, which maybe doesn't seem like a ton, but it's something. And then here saved 10, and really those are just going to add up. If you hadn't done as much compression from Photoshop or Canva or something, then you will end up with different ones. But yeah, it just gets them that little extra, and I think it's worth it for how quick and easy. Then you can just click this download all button, and they will save in this zip folder. And you can just extract them to another folder and get them all ready to upload to your website. So quick, simple, and easy to get that last little compression for your JPEGs and your PNGs. Here, I will show you how to save images from Photoshop as WebP images. So before we can save them as that, you will need the WebP plugin, which you can get here from developers.google. And this link is in the video description as well as in the PDF. So you will be able to get the plugin with this GitHub link, and then these instructions will tell you how to install it. It's pretty simple. And then once you get it installed and everything, you might just have to restart Photoshop to get it to show up. So I have this installed, so we are going to open up this nice herb garden banner that I have been working with, and we are going to save this as a WebP image. So the first thing that you want to do is to actually just make sure that the size of your image is the exact dimensions that you want. When we save for web, you can change those in the save for web screen, but with WebP, you want it to be exactly correct before you hit the save. So Control-I will bring that up, or Command-Option-I if you're on a Mac. And this is exactly where we want it at 1920 pixels wide because it is a full size image. The height is good, and then resolution of 72. So that's perfect. Then we're going to do a file save as. And instead of Photoshop, we are going to click on WebP, which is right here at the bottom. And then you can click save, and it will bring up this settings menu. So I always click preview because I want to see what it looks like. And this square box you can drag around to see how things look. And I always look for the type to see how that's going to be. And right next to this preview, you see the kilobyte size. So when we were saving this image for web as a JPEG, before we did anything and we had this at very high quality, it was over 400 kilobytes. Right now with the default settings and looking pretty sharp, we have 150 kilobytes. So that is the power of WebP. It's really awesome. The thing that was getting fuzzy in JPEG when we were optimizing this image was this logo here on the website mockup. And even that looks much clearer on this than it did there. And even the menu looks pretty okay. So with it still on this menu, I'm going to bump this down to maybe 60 just to see what it looks like. And that starts to get really fuzzy. We brought it down to 116 kilobytes there. Yeah, and even this logo text is starting to look a little fuzzy. So I'm going to bring this up to maybe 65. That's a lot better. So you can see that clearly. This text on the menu, yeah, it's kind of fuzzy, but it's going to be fuzzy anyway with the size. And this logo looks all right. So because of the size of 123 kilobytes, I'm going to leave it at this. If you wanted to opt for a little bit more quality and more file size, you can definitely do that. But I'm pretty happy with where this is at. So then I'm just going to click, before I click OK, this compression, I always just leave it at default. You can, fastest is going to up this size and slowest will bring it down, not too much actually. So I just leave it at default because I figure, you know, right in the middle, completely fine, and just adjusting the quality is where I'm comfortable with it at. So I'm going to click OK. And there you have it. So I save that out to my desktop and it would be ready to be uploaded. Now, when you're working with WebP images, you do need a fallback. So I will touch on that a little bit. I do have code that you can copy and paste, and that is linked in the description below, and then also in the PDF. So I will bring that up. And it's going to be a link to this code pen that's going to look really broken, but I promise it's not. It's just because I don't have images actually in here. So you'll just have to copy this set of code, the picture tags, and then you have this source set, and then another image. So really what this is doing is saying, I have these sources for the image, please use this one first. And if that doesn't work, then like fall back to this JPEG. So you will just have to adjust your image name to whatever it is. I always name the WebP and the JPEG exactly the same, and then just the extension is changed. And you will want to update that in these 3 spots. And then you will just have to add alt text once. And then you just copy and paste this whole thing and you put it into a custom code in your website, and that's how your image shows up. Now this does get tricky and not this simple when you're dealing with background images. If you're clipping stuff through SVG in different ways, you can run into some issues. You can adjust all of this in the htaccess file of your website, but I don't recommend doing that unless you feel very comfortable with code. The other thing that you can do is there are WordPress plugins. I'm not sure if there's options for that in Squarespace or Shopify. There might be, I just don't have the knowledge to be able to tell you, but there are some WordPress ones that you can just, it will actually make the WebP image for you, so you don't even have to go through this effort of saving it out. But if you did want to save it out, that's how you do it. Last but not least, here's a walkthrough of how to save a logo or other illustration as an SVG from Illustrator. So I have my logo open here that I'm going to save as an SVG. And once you have your artwork done on an artboard, then all you're going to have to do is go to File, Save As, and then I'm just going to put this on my desktop for quick access and click on SVG. I usually don't use artboards. If you have a lot of art in the surrounding area, you might want to click Use Artboard, but if you don't have anything, then you don't have to. It's completely fine. And I'm just going to click a save. So then this SVG option will pop up. Type SVG. You know, I don't have any fonts in this because everything's outlined. If you have images in there and you want it as links, I recommend doing it as links, not embedding. And then decimal places, I always do 1 because otherwise it gets to be a lot of extra. And then I just kind of leave all of this how it is and then click OK. And then you should have an SVG saved out. Let me go to my desktop and open this up right here. And we're opening with Edge, exciting, not even Chrome. Yeah, and then it just goes to whatever the screen is, and that's what that responsive did. And then if you want to place this, you can, I mean, it will adjust just like any other image in that sense, but it is a vector image, which is great. It gives you crisp and clean lines. You can just link to it exactly like an image of the source and all of that stuff. If you did want to dabble in the code, you can just open this SVG file in your code editor and copy and paste the HTML and CSS. I always update all the class names and everything, and that's how I actually did mine on my website, because when you hover on it, I wanted it to turn the icy blue of my brand. So that's where a lot of SVG like effects can come in, is doing them in CSS. And it's a really clean way to add a little bit of extra. So that is the last of how to optimize your images. So happy optimizing. Again, if you have any questions, just send them to me. And if you have any tips for how you optimize any of your images, I'd love to know. Leave them in a comment or send them to me, whichever works.